Hi, thank you for joining us today at Oklahoma Central on Understanding Credit and Credit Scores. My name is Janet Aramita, and I'm our Financial Development Officer here at the Credit Union. And today I have joining me our VP of Lending, Katrina Morton, and she's going to present her PowerPoint that we have on Understanding Credit Scores. And we also have Leah Bowles, our Community Director, manning for the chat box. If you have any questions at all going through the presentation, please do not hesitate to go ahead and ask your question in the chat. If we have time today, we'll address it. If not, within the next 24 hours, you will receive an email with your response back to your question. Also, our PowerPoint today does have quite a few extra slides in it. We put those in just for your convenience at home to be able to go through it when you possibly have more time, or if there may be something that you had some questions on. Please, at any time after the webinar, when you're reviewing your slides, whenever it may be, if you have any questions for us on any of the material, do not hesitate to reach out and send us an email, and we'll be glad to help you. Thank you so much, Katrina, for joining us today. We're very excited to have you.
Thank you for inviting me. Hi, everyone.
Now, we can go ahead and get started with understanding your credit report and scores. I'm so sorry, we're having just a few moments of technical difficulty. If you could just hold on for just a minute and we'll be able to get the webinar started.
Yeah, I don't know what.
It's okay. Let me do something.
So you could see me talking, but you couldn't hear me.
We can hear you now. There you go. It's ready to go.
What was, I don't know what happened.
Okay. Thank you so much for being patient with us. I believe we have all of our issues fixed now. Katrina, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
Good.
I'm so sorry about all that this morning. We can go ahead and happily get started.
Okay, so I don't know where we left off, but I'll just go over this real briefly. So today we're going to talk about why credit is important. There we go. What's on your credit report, how you can get a copy of your credit report, credit scores and how they are calculated, how to build and rebuild credit, and then last, credit common myths. So with that, we'll start with why is credit important? So when you apply for a job, and in some cases, even when you're being looked at for promotion, your employer will and can pull a credit report. So you got to be really cognizant of that your employer can do that if that's part of their policy. You can also look at getting better rates on your loans if you have a better credit score, and getting that loan when you need it. Renting or buying your own place. If you've ever rented, you know that one of the steps is pulling your credit report, and they will take a look at how the credit has been handled. They're trying to, make a decision on whether or not you're going to be, a good candidate for renting and paying your rent on time. So with that, that's just kind of some overview of some of the things that can impact your everyday life in relationship to credit. Here, just basically trying to illustrate, a credit score of 750, and again, the higher the better in this case, versus a credit score of 660. And just taking a look at, let's just say an average mortgage of $250,000 for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which is pretty traditional. The first candidate gets 5.25 because he's at 660. And his monthly payment is consequently higher because his interest rate is higher. And he's paying a lot more, almost about $33,000, $35,000 more than Angela on the right, who has a credit score of 750. She, because she does have a good, strong score, is getting an interest rate of 4.63 and a more reasonable monthly payment on that mortgage. And over 30 years, that can make a really big difference. So always good to have a good, strong credit score, especially before applying for a mortgage. 34,258, I was pretty close. All right. The next thing I want to talk about or go over is what is on a credit report. Some people look at their credit and they have no idea, what is this telling me? What is on here? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So you all are probably familiar with the big three. So these are our credit bureau reporting agencies. We have Experian, we have TransUnion, and we have Equifax. All of these companies have been around for, gosh, almost over 50 years. They came about when lenders said, listen, we really need some information, some data points that we can put together and come up with a regular score that tells us the propensity for the applicant to repay. And so they started with that in mind. And Experian is more popular actually on the West Coast. TransUnion is most popular in the middle states, and then Equifax is used more often out in the eastern coast. So what is on this mystery credit report? First, it's got identifying information. So it will have your name, your address, all of your former addresses, your current employer. It will have your Social Security. It will also tell us if you are a military or not, because there are some certain disclosures that have to be given to you if you are. It will show all of your open accounts, all of your closed accounts, all and any collections, anything that has gone to collection, meaning that you didn't pay it, and so it had to go to a collection agency. Those will show up on your credit report as well as any other derogatory credit, such as repossession, foreclosure. Even child support can show up on a credit report. And last, inquiries. So if you have been inquiring about borrowing money, that inquiry will show up on your credit report. Meaning if you gave someone authorization to pull your credit report, that is what constitutes an actual inquiry. So those things you will see. If you are a victim of fraud, or if you have disputed anything on your credit report, there will be a consumer statement, which gives you the right as the consumer to make a statement about anything on your credit report that you choose to. And you can do that right through the credit reporting agencies. So how do you obtain a copy of your credit report? It's actually super easy. So I do this every year, and I have a reminder set up so that I make sure I do go out and take a look. Annualcreditreport.com. And these reports are free. And all that they will show, though, is they will show everything that's on your report. But if you need your credit score or are curious about your credit score, that is what will cost you a little bit more if you want to see those credit scores. There's usually a couple of, these 3 years, buckets of years that are important on a credit report. 2 years for inquiries, 7 years, it'll report late payments, collection accounts, foreclosures, and Chapter 13 bankruptcies. And then Chapter 7 bankruptcies will be on your credit for a minimum of 10 years. The reason is that the 13 bankruptcy is a bankruptcy wherein you actually repay your debtors. You just pay them over a long period of time, where Chapter 7, you don't pay your debtors. So it does stay on a little bit longer. The good news is, if you're making your payments on time, positive credit stays on your report indefinitely. So anytime you're making your mortgage payment, your car payment, your credit card payments on time, you're building that credit score. Can you move a little bit forward there? Okay. So if you find an error on your credit report, you can dispute your credit report. And how you do that is you can file a dispute online, and you can actually do this through annualcreditreport.com. And you can provide documentation that basically proves your case, that this is reporting incorrectly, and the creditor that's reporting it has to respond within 30 days, or that trade line will actually fall off of your credit report. So that onus and the responsibility is placed on the lending institution. So on the bank, on the credit union, it's our responsibility to respond to those and provide any other proof that that counteracts that or does agree with the dispute form, and then we are actually bound by law to fix it. So that's how you can file a complaint. Let's talk about credit scores and how they're calculated. This is always kind of a mystery. It's actually pretty easy. It's a 3-digit number, and again, the higher the better. The highest credit score that is out there is 850, and the lowest credit score is 300. So that's the range. It's a 3-digit number, and it reflects your credit risk and likelihood of repayment. So it's using millions of data points and algorithms to determine whether or not, based on how that credit has performed, whether or not you're a good candidate, A, for the loan, B, for however high of a loan you're looking for, and then C, your propensity to repay. So the information that's contained in there and how it is distributed in terms of importance is the credit score breakdown. So Your payment history is 35% of your credit score. So super important that those payments are made on time. 30% comes in second with how much do you owe? And are you using a lot of your available credit? So it's not bad to have credit cards, but if you have, 5 credit cards and your limits are all maxed out, that can really impact your credit score in a negative way. Length of credit history is 15% of your score. So, however long you've been doing credit or using credit, that's important to a creditor. It shows that you are able to sustain and make monthly payments on debt that you took out for a long period of time, not just for a couple of years or not just for a couple of months, but for many years. The types of credit used is a 10% hit or combination of your credit score. And that's also referred to as credit mix. So like to see some balance there. Auto loans, mortgage loan, credit card. So your ability to make payments on several different types of loans can affect your credit score up to 10%. And then any new credit that you've taken out is 10%. So the biggest impact is that payment history. So important to make those payments on time, and then not getting too crazy with those available lines of credit. And that's how you control it. You can also check your credit score anytime, anywhere with Credit Karma. I'm sure you've heard of Credit Karma. There's a lot of other companies out there that are very similar to Credit Karma. And this particular service provides a variety of scores, and it only has TransUnion and Equifax. The credit scores are updated weekly. So if you've had payments made, or if you've added new debt to your credit report, this is pretty up to date. Your regular credit bureau is updated every 30 days. And it helps you track credit scores several months before big ticket items such as a mortgage or a vehicle purchase these days.
Real quick, Katrina, we are halfway through our webinar, so if anyone has any questions, please don't forget we've got that chat box down there. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I just wanted to let everyone know that real quick.
Thank you, Jana. So in this scenario, we're going to try to guess here who has the better credit. So Diego has a balance of $800 on his credit card. His limit is $1,000, and he pays the entire balance every single month. And then Angela has a $5,000 balance with a $10,000 limit, and she makes her minimum payment every month. Angela actually has the better credit score. You would think that if you're paying off your credit cards every single month, that must be a good thing. But in credit world, it actually isn't. Again, I refer back to making those payments over time. So you want to make sure that you are not paying off the credit cards every single month. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have one that you actually do that on, but have another one where you're actually making those payments and building that credit. And that takes us to actually building credit. Reviewing your goals. What is your goal? Are you wanting to buy a house in 2 years? We'll need to get started on, unfortunately, in order to build a credit score, you actually have to borrow money, right? So you're going to want to start off slow. Credit cards are a great way to get started. They're the best way to get started. We also have secured credit cards out there where you can put up an amount like $500, and you can use that $500. You're using your own money, and you're out there being able to utilize it, and then you're actually able to make those payments back. Secured loans, anything that has collateral, such as an auto loan. Retail and gas credit and the utility credit is a big deal now. I'm sure you've heard of Experian Boost. That's where they're being able to boost, is those retail and gas credit cards are coming online and reporting that information. I don't know about all of you, but when I first started, I had to get a cosigner. And that used to be the way to go. And it still is a way to go today. Getting a strong cosigner with good credit that's willing to sign for you If the loan it defaults, they would obviously be responsible for it, but that's another way to build some credit. And lastly, getting yourself added as an authorized user on someone else's card, such as your parent, such as your grandparent, and that can really help you establish some credit too. Shows that you are responsible with handling that credit. So just some tips for the wise for using credit. You want to make sure that you do have money in savings as a backup. That's true for anything, right? You want to have savings. And it's tough to do these days, but the more you have in savings, the better off you're going to be. Consider making only one charge per month, such as an automatic bill pay. That's how you can kind of control your spending on those cards. And you're going to want to start out slow and then progressively go up. Always try to use less than 1/3 of your available credit. And anytime we go over 1/3, that can eat into our credit score. So using, again, that credit wisely. Paying the entire balance to avoid finance charges. Even though we talked about that earlier, this is a good thing from an overall budget standpoint. But you're going to want to do that with one card, but still have another out there, or a closed-end loan, installment loan that you're making payments on, so you can continue to build that credit. There's nothing wrong with paying your balance. You're just going to want to have one that you just make that one charge on so you can start building. Check your report and score regularly. Fraud is on the rise. We do see a lot of fraud in the lending department, and people, taking Social Security numbers and dates of birth and applying for credit and pretending they're someone else. And we usually have a really good system for catching that. But you're going to want to see your credit report and your score regularly, just to keep on top of it and make sure that the debt that's out there is actually debt that you owe. All right, so lastly, some common credit myths, and there are some. So myth 1 is closing a credit card will hurt my credit score. That really is not the case. So Sarah and Katie. Sarah maxed out 3 of her credit cards, paid off the first card, decides to close to remove the temptation on the other one, and then on that card, and then 2 cards remain maxed out. Life happens. Sarah's using her cards. Katie has 5 open accounts, all balances are 0 or close to 0, and she decides to close a newer account to avoid the annual fee. So both of these scenarios happen all day, every day. So Sarah's situation does have a negative impact, and Katie's has little to no impact. And you would think it would be the opposite, but that's not the case. So again, Katie using her credit wisely. Myth 2, checking my credit score will hurt my credit score. That is not true. It will not change your score. If you are inquiring on your own credit report, applying too often can hurt credit. Yes, if you're applying everywhere, all over town, and trying to get 14 credit cards open, yes, that can definitely hurt your credit. But when you check it, it's considered a soft inquiry, and therefore it does not even show up that you looked at your own credit, and it does not impact your score at all. And that is the end. Those are the basics of credit, how to build credit, why it's so important, how to get your credit report, and then some myths that we hear a lot in the lending area. People not wanting us to inquire. So with that, if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Kat, for joining us today. We really appreciate you doing this with us, and all the knowledgeable information you were able to share with us today is greatly appreciated. If you have any questions at all, we'll go ahead and stay on the line for just a few more minutes to man the chat box and be able to answer any. Or if later on, after you review the slideshow, if you have some questions you hadn't thought of during the presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll be happy to answer those. Thank you for joining us today.